All right, everybody. What is up? I'm here doing a live stream, my post game recap for the West Virginia victory over the Virginia Tech Hokies last night, Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. What a night it was in Blacksburg, Virginia. I was blessed to be there in person to witness it. A really cool atmosphere in Blacksburg. Fans were really loud and into the game. But Inner Sandman was obviously really cool. I was I was trying to get on Golden Blue Dude's live stream that he was doing, but while I was at the stadium, but I just didn't have good enough phone service. It wouldn't let me do that, so I wasn't able to. I was hoping to try to live stream the Inner Sandman entrance and everything for you guys, but for Golden Blue Dude and for any of you who may have been watching that, wasn't able to do it. Any of you guys who've ever been inside of a large stadium like that with that many people, there are just so many phones and so much going on that it's hard to get a good signal. By the way, guys, I'm going to be joined by a guest here today to help me kind of recap yesterday's game, and I'm going to be joined by Mountaineer Paul. Everybody.
What's up?
How you doing?
Doing well. Doing well. I mean, any day after a win like yesterday, no matter how ugly, is a good day.
Absolutely. A win's a win, especially over the castrated turkeys in Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Before we start breaking the game down, I've got to talk a little bit about my experience last night because it was interesting to say the least. Number one, I touched on the Inner Sandman entrance. It was really cool. Something I could mark off my bucket list. The fans behind me, I was surrounded by Tech fans. I was in a Tech heavy section. But the fans behind me, and majority of 99% of the fans were extremely nice and cordial. I did have one little incident, which I'll touch on in a minute. But all the fans around me were Tech fans, and they were complaining that it was one of the worst Inner Sandman entrances that they've ever seen. And the reason they said was because, there was a section kind of in the corner on the other side of the stadium from where I was at that was mostly West Virginia fans, and I guess they weren't jumping up and down like everybody else, so it threw off the vibe or whatever. So they were complaining about that a little bit, but still, for me, it was pretty cool. I thought it was neat. I thought it was pretty darn good myself. But there again, I'd never been there, so I don't have anything else to compare it to. The other thing, I don't know how many of you guys know, they're famous for their turkey legs that you buy inside the stadium. They call them the Lane legs. Lane Stadium, obviously. Very, 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 very overrated, I must say. It was like eating a baseball glove, man. It took me about 3 minutes to chew every bite. I mean, it was ridiculous, ridiculously tough. But and then, like I said, most people were nice. I had a lot of people come up say good luck as I was walking in. One guy saw me with the turkey leg, was like, "Hey man, enjoy that turkey leg," and just people were mostly nice. Well, during the end, as the game went on, as we were getting late and we knew the game was at hand, the mood started to change in the stadium. Obviously, right? The Tech fans are all sad. They're all upset. A lot of them had already started to leave. A few that hung around were starting to talk trash to the West Virginia fans. There was this one guy sitting probably 3 or 4 rows down on the other side of the aisle from me, young guy. Started flipping off all the West Virginia fans. And I looked over at him. I said, "Well, you crying a little bit there, buddy? You got some tears?" He says, so he turns and starts telling me that to keep this clean, to keep it G-rated, PG-rated, whatever YouTube allows. He said, "What, do you have sex with your sister?" And I said, and then he come up and tried to shake my hand as he was walking by me. I said, "I ain't shaking your damn hand after you talk to me like that." I said, "I don't think that crap's funny, man." He said, "Fine then," and walked on. And so needless to say, that was really the only time I've really ever had any issues with a fan at a game. But and it didn't turn into anything. I just spoke my piece and he kept walking. And then I was trying to think of the other thing that happened that I was going to talk about.
At halftime.
Bingo, halftime. I wish I had videoed this. Obviously I didn't know it was happening, so I didn't have time to video it. I'm sitting there just minding my own business, talking talking to some friends and my wife. I look up and all of a sudden Frank Beamer comes on and they on the screen. It's not live. He's on the screen, a recording, and says something, or it says y'all pay attention or something. Well, then all of a sudden it comes up and says, "Is the song Country Roads about West Virginia?" And then, keep in mind, this is throughout the whole stadium on their big jumbotron. So this is a school sanctioned deal here. Okay, this is not fans. This is a school sanctioned event or occurrence. Comes up on the screen. Is Country Roads really about West Virginia? And then it plays a bunch of clips, and then it says no in big letters. Then it keeps playing some music and just keeps playing these little videos and music, and then all of a sudden it flashes up a map showing just Virginia and West Virginia. And over the state of West Virginia, it has the letters NA, which in my experience means not available, which means irrelevant, which means whatever you want to make it mean in that case.
Or non-applicable.
Not applicable. Another one. It showed that multiple times on the screen throughout halftime. And I didn't say anything. I sat there and minded my business, but I thought to myself, that is a classless thing to do for a school to sanction something like that. It almost reminds me of what any of you who remember when West Virginia played Virginia in a bowl game back in 2003 or 4. It was one of Rich Rod's first years. Their band or someone came on the field and was dressed like hillbillies and was making fun of West Virginians. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. This kind of reminded me of that. It wasn't that extreme, but it still fell in that same category. They were just basically disrespecting the entire state of West Virginia, in my opinion. And I just felt like that's something that a university, and what's baffling to me, and I'm surprised that their AD signed off on it. Their athletic director is actually a West Virginia graduate. So I'm actually surprised. Maybe they thought it was just innocent fun and they were just referring to the song, but to me, it was disrespectful. But maybe I'm taking it too seriously. But Paul, I'm gonna let you. If you were there and saw something like that, what would you think?
Well, Frank Beamer's got a lot of power and a lot of pull. He has the power to go over heads. So I wouldn't be surprised if the AD didn't know about it. But, I mean, you're probably right, the AD did. But I also wouldn't be surprised if the AD didn't.
Right.
And also, just another thing, that a lot of West Virginians are mad about today was the Riley Wyant incident. Where did you see or hear about that?
Yeah, I did, but I'm not exactly. Remind me who she is.
She is a news anchor on NBC 12 there in Virginia, I think the Richmond area. And she said that she and her friends went and bought 145 toothbrushes to hand out at the game.
Yeah,
for West Virginia. And
it's
getting absolutely destroyed on Twitter right now. I mean, I couldn't even go through all the comments of people just absolutely destroying them. So I called NBC 12 earlier.
Did you really?
I offered her a platform, and I got in touch with their director, and he said he'd be back in contact with him. I've got my phone here beside me. We'll give her a platform, won't we, Coos?
Yeah. It may not be
to apologize.
May not be pleasant, but
no. But I mean, if she wants to apologize, I mein, I can accept that. I don't think I think some people are blowing it out of proportion. It's not, it's not the end of the world, but it's just another shot over that we've had, coupled with the stuff you went through. It's another shot, a lot of classlessness. It's a lot like probably how LSU felt about us in 2011.
Yeah, right, and that's another reason I'm skeptical, or not skeptical, but sometimes I'm skittish to talk about stuff like this because we all know our fan base has done some stupid stuff too. So it's hard for us to throw stones, right?
Yeah.
But this is the first time I've ever been to a game where something like that's happened. But to be positive, like I said, 99% of the people I met were extremely polite, were welcoming, wished me good luck multiple times. A guy was bragging about our team after the game. Man, you guys got a great offensive line. I mean, just things like that. Very nice.
I heard that a lot.
Yeah, really. Tell me about it. But no, so and I don't want to judge an entire fan base based on the actions of one or two people. So the thing with the fan was just kind of a one-off, right? But the school sanction thing over the stadium is really what bothered me the most because it's school sanctioned. it's one thing for fans to do stupid stuff and say stupid stuff, but when the school sanctions it, I just think it goes to a whole nother level. So anyway, someone said
it's getting old anyway. Talking about
it is. But like one person said, they can say NA all they want, but we got that W, and we got that trophy sitting in our trophy room for the next at least 15, 16 years.
You know that picture of Bob Huggins where he's got the bass, he's holding it out. Mm-hmm. I've seen about 50 of those. He's holding the L into him.
Yeah, that's funny. Hangover Hank says, "Yeah, what's up with all the flipping people off?" Yeah, it's just, I mean, like I said, West Virginia fans do that too. You know, we've had our moments too. We can't. It's hard for us to throw a lot of stones, but
some of those Marshall games, man, I went to.
Yeah, I mean, West Virginia's. It used to bother me when our fans would show up with West effing Virginia. Remember those shirts? I think it was where the students it said West effing Virginia on their shirt.
The worst thing I saw,
and it would get on national television, and it's just a bad look, man. You know.
Oh yeah, when we went to play Marshall at Marshall in what was that, 2012 or 11? When one of those two, there was a few people that had shirts on that said Marshall will crash and burn today. Yeah. You know, like really, really. I was standing there to be seen with it.
Yeah.
You know, had a plane going down on the shirt.
No kidding.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. But like I said,
really disrespectful.
Every fan base has got some bad apples in it. We all know that, ours included.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I don't want to dwell on that stuff. Let's get to the game, man.
All right.
First off, what's up, WV Mountaineer Lair with Kenny? Thanks for jumping on here, man. Let's talk about first, Paul. We'll talk about that interception in a minute, Kenny. But Paul, I want to get your thoughts first of all, just on. And by the way, guys, before I forget, my Twitter feed or my Twitter handle and Paul's Twitter handle are at the bottom of the screen, scrolling. If you want to check us out on Twitter and hit us up, interact with us a little bit. Paul, also tell my listeners, Paul's got his own brand new YouTube channel, so tell them where they can find you, man.
Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. It's my own channel. I've got a couple of subscribers, not many yet. I've kind of tried to build my following through guys like Coos. I also have I do shows on the Voice of College Football on the West Virginia channel with Country Roads Webcast, with Coos, with Golden Blue Dude. Obviously, I'm a West Virginian just like a lot of you guys, and I love the Mountaineers. So if you want to see somebody who's really passionate about the Mountaineers, does his research, and has a unique opinion about the Mountaineers sometimes, come check me out.
Yeah, and I recommend everybody. His first video he had dropped was an interview he did with C.J. Donaldson's high school football coach. And by the way, The Athletic just did an article on C.J. Donaldson today. I'm hoping. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I just saw the headline, so I'm hoping to read it and may even do a video on it. But shout out to C.J. Donaldson, man. The guy's making national headlines for his performances. Matthew Swanson asked about the atmosphere. It was a good atmosphere, man. It was sold out, 65, 66,000, whatever they hold. The fans there were loud into the game. There was obviously some trash talk, which is cool. I'm cool with trash talk. There was a few fans got disrespectful, but like I said earlier, you'll have that at times. But it was a good atmosphere overall. It was a really good time. One more thing I can mark on my bucket list. I got to hear Enter Sandman playing at Lane Stadium live. Got to see everybody jumping. I didn't jump myself because I was filming it, and I was wanting to. Paul, before you came on, I was talking about how Golden Blue Dude wanted me to stream it on his live stream yesterday, but there was not enough. I didn't have a good enough signal inside the stadium, man. I couldn't even get service, so I wasn't able to do it. But
the acoustics are hard too in situations.
What's that?
The acoustics are really hard to get.
It is, but I mean, people understand that though, and it would have been cool to be able to share that with his.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see it.
But it just inside the stadium, it's just too hard to do. And then I didn't have a chance to jump on his live stream at halftime either because I was in line. One thing I do want to touch on real quick: that is one of the worst stadiums to watch a football game in. Their walkways are extremely narrow. The work for any of you who've been to Milan Pushkar Stadium, the program, they put a lot of money and effort into expanding the concourse areas, putting in more concession stands and all that. It's made it a much more pleasurable experience. Virginia Tech needs to do that because it gets their lines get extremely long. I mean, you go stand in line for a drink and you miss half a quarter of football. I mean, it's that bad.
Wow.
And I don't you don't pay that kind of money to I mean, if you leave your seat, you're gonna miss part of a huge portion of the game.
It's an
So
ACC.
yeah, I mean, they need to put more money into their. They need to put more money into their. Now, the inside the on the portion field, once you're in your seat, it's fantastic. One of the best I've seen. But outside of that, it's much to be desired. They need more concession stands. They need wider walkways, wider concourses, wider stairwells to walk in. I mean, it's two people can barely pass each other. To get to when you're going up to your seat, somebody else is coming down. There's barely enough room to pass. So they need to improve that. But like I said, inside Washington Field where they actually play, it's pretty cool. And I do have to say, Inner Sandman was freaking awesome live. I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit underwhelmed by it. I thought it was going to be bigger than it actually was. But it might be. I'm the type of person if I'm filming something, I'm focusing so hard on filming it that I don't soak it in. If that makes sense, I don't soak in the moment. So I might have enjoyed it more had I just stopped filming and soaked it in. But I can't, unfortunately, for copyright reasons. I'm probably not going to be able to share that on YouTube. But what I will try to do, hopefully, is share it on TikTok and maybe even on Instagram, because I think you can do it there if I'm not mistaken. Because they don't pay, so you can do it. But anyway, Snowlord 1999, thanks for the super chat donation, man. He says, "What did you think when the stadium was empty?" Yeah, they got empty quick, man. I mean, even in the third quarter, when it was still a fairly close game, you could look up in the top left corner on the opposite side, and it was almost empty. It was baffling to me, and it wasn't a blowout game until late. So I don't know why people were leaving so early, but I mean, it got a little bit cool in the stadium. But I mean, if you're a passionate fan, you're not leaving the game that early. Philip says he loves the headline "Exit Sandman." Yeah, that's. I put that on Twitter. I put "Exit Sandman, Q Country Roads." I think that's pretty fitting for the moment.
Appropriate.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the game.
Mm-hmm.
What were we talking about? What
you were asking me what I thought?
Yeah. Go ahead and tell us what you think about I'm kind of rambling today, man. I'm still hyped up. I ain't gonna lie. First off, what were your surprises?
Surprises? Well, our
Bad
defense, I think, when they gave up the early touchdown over the top, really settled in, especially in the second half. Credit Jordan Leslie. Somehow this phone is ringing. There we go.
You're good on my end.
Okay. Credit Jordan Leslie and the staff for really making some second half adjustments. They really did a nice job. And Jacoby Spells, obviously, the huge surprise. I wasn't expecting him to make as big a play as he did. But the maturity he showed to jump that slant route is, you can tell he must have been listening to Charles Woods, and I'd heard whispers that they had spent a lot of time together over the summer. So it seems like, it's got me hoping that maybe the Charles Woods situation can work itself out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And we can get some kind of rotation with Jacoby Spells on the right side, with Charles Woods locking that left side down, man. Because that would be huge for us. We've got a Big 12 championship caliber offense. I don't think anybody would argue with that. But unfortunately, I don't think our offense is the best in the conference. So if we get into a scoring match with some of the best teams in the conference, I don't know if we could outscore them based on our defense versus their defense.
Makes sense. That's fair. And we could get a sample of that next weekend because Texas's offense is no joke. Now, it's my understanding. I guess Quinn Ewers still going to be out for that game, or do you know for sure?
Well, we'll find out tomorrow because I'd read earlier that he was banged up and that it's going to be Hudson Card for tomorrow. It's a big game for Texas, so if he could play, he would be playing. We'll have to wait for more information on that to hear more Saturday. and see how the game goes. So lucky. Texas, have they even left the state of Texas yet?
Good question. I don't think
They
they have.
haven't played Alabama at all.
Because Alabama came to them.
Yeah, they're lucky.
Okay, Matthew
Yeah.
Swanson said Quinn is questionable for tomorrow and is dressing.
Okay.
So that means he'll probably be back for us. Crap. Well, I ain't going to say crap. I want to see the guy play.
I really wasn't too scared of him, to be honest. He's got an incredible arm. Me and Big Bubba just talked about this last night on the post-game show. He really thinks that Quinn Ewers is a really good player. I think he's not a really good player yet. I think he's got a lot of Brett Favre in him. Definitely got that gunslinger mentality, but his feet in the pocket are really sloppy. A lot of his mechanics are really bad. He really just has so much talent that he can get by with it.
Right.
You know, he drops arm angles, he does it all. So in that sense, he can be scary, but against a defense that has some players like we do that I think can key on some of that stuff, especially along the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
I think, because his pocket presence isn't that good yet. I don't know. I think Hudson Card's a really experienced guy. I don't know if who I would rather see at this point in their career. Obviously, Quinn Ewers is going to be amazing at some point.
Yeah. That's a fair assessment. Philip says, I still can't tell if we suck or not, to be honest. Yeah, and Philip, I'll touch on that later. As great as it feels today, I kind of feel the same. I ain't gonna lie to you. But I'm trying to stay positive. But I am gonna touch later on. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows in that game last night. And we're gonna touch on that later. But I guess my surprises for the game would be number one, like you said, Jacoby Spells, the way he stepped up and played. Obviously, C.J. Donaldson just continues to amaze us. I don't know if that's a surprise, but I was surprised at how well our offensive line blocked last night. I mean, they just – because Virginia Tech's defensive front was supposed to be really good, and our offensive line absolutely dominated them. I mean, they dominated, especially in the run game. And J.T. Daniels was sacked only one time last night and there were no hurries recorded in the stat sheet.
Yeah.
No hurries and one sack. Pretty darn good performance. Now, it looked like the pocket started to collapse on him a few times, but I don't think it really was collapsing because the offensive linemen were able to sustain their blocks long enough. They didn't get by, they didn't beat them. Justin Johnson played a really good game.
Yeah, he was a big surprise.
Matter of fact, I'm going to read the stats real quick because I haven't even had a chance to digest the stats yet. I'm going to do it live right here.
I know we went over 200 rushing again. I mean, our rushing attack is just something. That's a surprise. Just overall, our rushing attack.
Yeah.
Surprise for sure.
So let me look at the team stats. West Virginia, 31 first downs compared to 14 for Virginia Tech.
Wow.
Third down efficiency, we held Virginia Tech to 2 of 10 on third down, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
West Virginia was 413, so we weren't great on third down, but we, much better than them. Total yards, West Virginia 421, Virginia Tech 228. Man. Passing, West Virginia 203, Tech 193. So they got not bad. We held them under 200. We had the one pick. Rushing, we rushed for 218 yards. They rushed for 35. That right there is the difference in the game.
Wow.
Jeffrey Foster, thanks for the super chat, my friend. It says, I know everybody is fashion Neil Brown. I assume you mean bashing, but at least he's undefeated against Virginia Tech. Hey, great point, man. 2-0. And so is Doug Nestor, the transfer from Virginia Tech. Something I saw on Twitter today. So,
yep.
Yeah, man. But, Jeffy, thanks for the donation, my man. Appreciate your support.
Yeah, thanks, Joey.
Defense only gave up 35 rushing yards. They were, absolutely dominant. Penalties. We only had 6 penalties for 69 yards. They had 15 penalties for 132 yards. I was watching that game. Oh, and time of possession. Get this, folks. Time of possession. West Virginia held the ball for 38 minutes and 44 seconds.
Whoa.
In that game. Virginia Tech only had it 21-16. So, 2 things. One, we were running the ball really well, so we were able to stay on the field and sustain drives. And 2, we were able to get them off the field on third down. And I guess the one negative I would say on offense, if I had to pick a negative on offense, number one, JT Daniels did not have his best game last night. He was off last night. Now, I think the wind had something to do with that, and Neil Brown even talked about that at the end of the game. So I do think wind impacted his throws, but he was off a little bit. But the fact that we were able to win the game without him having his best statistical night is telling to me. And it shows how balanced our offense can be and how far they've came. Gregory Krug says, I am undefeated against Virginia Tech. I am 0 wins and 0 losses. Greg's always got some kind of funny comeback, man. He cracks me up. He's got a different sense of humor. But just, I mean, West Virginia was dominant in the game, pretty much. I mean, it was, the score doesn't really show that, but the other thing I was going to touch on, we got settle for field goals too many times in the red zone. We got in the red zone 4 different times and had to settle for field goals. And I thought that was going to come back and bite us, to be honest with you. I kept saying, man, if we don't start capitalizing on these drives, but our defense kept stepping up and stopping them, or Virginia Tech would shoot themselves in the foot, man. Watching Virginia Tech against us was almost like watching us against Pitt to an extent, except worse.
That's the second time this year they've had 15 penalties in a game.
Is it really?
They did it against Old Dominion as well.
Wow. It's hard to win when you do that.
Yeah. Brent Price got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. And I will say this, Virginia Tech's defense is not bad. Their defense, I thought, was pretty decent. I mean, other than stopping the run. They couldn't stop our run. But they did pretty good stopping the pass. I thought they pretty much they blanketed Bryce Ford Wheaton last night, was forcing somebody else to beat us. So Caden Prather stepped up and caught some balls last night. Reese Smith caught a nice ball. But speaking of that, I'm going to look at some individual stats from the game here. JT Daniels was 20 out of 30, 203 yards, 1 touchdown, QBR of 85.5. So he was efficient. It's not a bad night at all.
No.
CJ Donaldson, 23 carries, 106 yards, average of 4.6 per carry. Justin Johnson Jr., 11 carries, 83 yards, 7.5 yards per carry. So a good night for him. Had the 1 touchdown. Had the longest run of the night of 24 yards. Mathis, 9 carries, 38 yards. Of course, we all know once he fumbled the ball, he was out until the end, into the game. And to be honest with you, I think the coaching staff needs to do more of that stuff. They have got to start holding these players accountable for mistakes. I mean, and that's one change this coaching staff has made that I like. When Taj Austin made that stupid roughing the passer penalty against Kansas, he hasn't started since. Now, he's still playing, but he lost his starting spot to Sean Martin. Mathis fumbles, they take him out and put somebody else in the game. To me, that's what this coaching staff should have been doing the last 3 years. I always felt like they allowed these guys to have too long a leash at times. And I'm not saying Tony Mathis is a bad player but you've got to cut down on the mistakes. And I think they did that. Now, we still had some mistakes, and I still think they need to clean some things up. Reese Smith muffed that punt. The wind carried that ball so far to the sideline, he should have let that ball go. He should not even have attempted to field that ball the way the wind was blowing last night, in my opinion. So that was just a decision-making error on his part. What do you think, Paul?
Oh, it was absolutely the wind.
Yeah.
But I think Reese needs to be replaced. I don't. His confidence has got to be down. And there's other options. I think Jeremiah Aaron just looked so fast last night in the couple of routes that he ran, the catch that he had. He's got another gear. Now, there might be a reason he's not there already to begin with, or it could just be they thought that Reese had earned that spot to try. But I think a lot of us would love to see Preston Fox get that opportunity.
Yeah, I would. I don't understand. I wish they would put somebody else back there too. I'm with you, man. And I hate to say negative things about our players, but I'm just constructive criticism, man.
Yeah, it's not nothing shaming him or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I just think
with JT though with the win, it was all win.
Oh, it was win, but I mean, in my opinion, you need to be smarter and not field the ball.
Yeah,
don't field it, right? I mean, you see the ball carrying like going way off. I mean, and you're having to run at a 90-degree angle.
It would have went out of bounds.
Yeah, exactly. So I just I thought it was a bad decision to try to field it. Obviously, the Mathis fumble I thought would end up hurting us, and it could have. But one thing I liked about this team, and Coach Brown talked about it, is they didn't let the mistakes beat them. They didn't get rattled. They just okay. Here's what we're up against. Let's just overcome it, right? And they kept overcoming the mistakes, and that's something that this team hasn't done really well the last 2 years. They've made mistakes and not been able to overcome them. They overcame them last night, and that was very promising. The ball bounced our way a few times, which we haven't seen a lot. So we might have had a little luck too. Ball bounced off the receiver's helmet once for Tech. What do you think about Tech's quarterback? What's your opinion on Grant Wells, Paul?
Grant Wells is a little arm talent. He can really spin it, but his decision making is poor.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not fair to. I don't think he has the requisite weapons around him, minus Caleb Williams and the kid King in the backfield. Mm-hmm. Those are really the only two weapons he has there. He threw for a boatload of yards at Marshall, but he also threw for a boatload of interceptions. So I think that's kind of, you are what your stats are, especially at this point in his career, as far into it as he is. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that if you surround him with the right pieces, I think can definitely win games, but he's also going to make a ton of mistakes too.
Right. A Hokie for life. Thanks for jumping on, man. Obviously a Hokie fan. Says one team is in year 4 of a rebuild. The other is in game 4. Honestly, not shocked. And that's a very fair statement right there. Very fair statement. And I have no, but that doesn't mean I'm going to enjoy the win any less. But in all honesty, most Virginia Tech fans I have talked to or read on message boards did not expect Tech to win that game last night. So
yeah, we talked about that before the game.
Yeah. I don't think it was a huge surprise for their fan base for them to lose the game. Matthew Swanson talking about Reese Smith. He says it's his 3rd drop punt. So yeah, it's a problem.
Absolutely. What do you think about the offensive line? They come out with Doug Desser at right tackle, Jordan White at right guard. One series goes by, then they flip it. Doug Nestor moves to the right guard. Jaquay Hubbard moves to right tackle. Do you think that was gamesmanship because that was on the depth chart with Neil Brown and the staff, or do you think there was something they saw?
I think it was probably something they saw. I don't know that they needed gamesmanship. It could have been gamesmanship, maybe. But I think if it's gamesmanship, they don't actually start the game with them. They do it in warm-ups or something. It's kind of risky to do gamesmanship actually during an entire drive, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I haven't nailed it down. I was hoping that anybody would ask in the press conference. Mm-hmm. I guess we'll have to wait for Monday to find out. Yeah. It's hard to say because we were dominant on that drive. So, it could be that Jordan White is still banged up. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of because we've heard all summer long those are our best 5. Even though the next man up, Jaquay Hubbard, performed really well. It's hard to say where it's at. We'll have to see Monday.
And while we're talking, I'm going to pull up I've actually got the Pro Football Focus grades, the top 10 from last night on each side of the ball. I'm going to pull up here. But while we're doing that comment by Hokie for life, heartbreaking because y'all will probably refuse to play us again. Dude, our schedule's already completed up through 2036 or something. It's not refusing to play you. The schedule's done. Are we supposed to drop teams to add you guys on the schedule? It's not. I don't know that it's refusal. And maybe it's refusal to play. I don't know.
Don't count on conference realignment just yet. We don't know.
No, exactly. Yeah, we could end up in the same conference.
Yeah, we can end up in the same conference, or you can end up in the Big 12. Who knows what can happen? I would love nothing more than to see you guys in a conference with us as a fan. Now, I'm not an athletic director. I will say the way that we've scheduled our games out this year have been incredibly hard on us. There's no reason we should be 2-2 by the way everybody else schedules. 2 rivalry games on the road.
Right.
That's difficult, man. We shouldn't have. I understand why, because Oliver Luck thought this was the way things were trending, but unfortunately, it's not.
Yep. Here we go. Report card. Listen to this. This right here tells the story of this game. Top 10 PFF grades for the Mountaineers in last night's game. Okay. Number 1, Doug Nestor, 79.7.
That's so fitting.
Number 2, Wyatt Milam, 77.9. That's our 2 tackles. Number 3, Zach Frazier, 77.4. Number 4, Jaquay Hubbard, 76.7. Well, actually, I said Nestor was a tackle. He was actually a guard. Hubbard was the other tackle. But the top 4 performers from the offense, according to Pro Football Focus, were all offensive linemen. I mean, what else needs to be said, right? That tells the story of the whole game. And Tony Altimore's on here. Thanks for jumping on, Tony. He says, everybody show Akuza's Corner some love and click the like button. The thumbs up button right underneath. Takes you like a tenth of a second to click it, and it doesn't cost you a dime. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it, man.
You do good work, Tony.
Tony says, how about when all the Mountaineer fans lost faith, a certain Trojan fan still believed? Nice win last night. You're right, Tony. We did lose. And we're still not – some of us are still a little bit skittish, but I was there in person. It was wild for the first drives. Then after WU scored, it killed the place. Yeah, you could kind of feel the air come out of the building a little bit. But now I'm going to finish reading off these Pro Football Focus grades. JT Daniels was 5th at 75.3. CJ Donaldson, running back, 71.8. And CJ's been up in the top half almost every game. And the kid's a true freshman. I'm just blown away by this kid, man. I can't get over it. I just hope to God we can keep him. Number 7 is Jeremiah Aaron.
Yeah.
70.8. Reese Smith, 66.7. So not terrible. Caden Prather, 66.5, and James Gamitter, 66.1. So all 5 of our starting offensive linemen were in the top 10. Now defensively, number 1, Jordan Jefferson, high score of everybody, 83.9. Played his butt off. Stuffed that run game like no man's business. What was you saying?
Well, he's just stacked those performances. He's had that type of grade going on 3 weeks in a row now.
He has, absolutely. Jacoby
Turned
Spells
himself into a draft pick is what he's doing.
Yeah, and one of the things the guys at Ear Sports wrote about, which is the 24/7 guys that cover West Virginia, they were talking about how they kind of saw this coming. They predicted that Jordan Jefferson was going to step up and have a really good season, and that we wouldn't really miss Akeem Mesidor that much because of that.
Yeah, they're 2 different kinds of players, though. Too, wouldn't you think? Don't you think? I mean,
they're totally different. Yes,
but
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. Even though I got upset with Akeem for leaving, and more because of the way he left, not that he left, the timing of it and the way he did it. But at the same time, he's a young man, so I'm going to give him a pass.
Safe though, that was what blew my mind.
Yeah, but that aside, he feels like he is a defensive end, and honestly, I thought that's what West Virginia originally brought him in to be. And they had him playing nose tackle, and he feels like he has a better shot at the NFL as a defensive end, and he might be right. I don't know. But Jordan Jefferson is a true nose tackle, in my opinion. He's a big body. He's strong. He can take up space and plug that middle. Whereas Akeem Mesidor was more of a pass rush guy.
Yeah.
So, now, have you seen the Pro Football Focus grade yet, Paul?
No, I'm usually on top of that.
Who do you think number 2 is on the defensive side for West Virginia?
On the defensive side, I'll go with Lee Koba.
You're incorrect, but not far off. He's in the top 10.
Okay, one more guess. Lordy mercy. Let's go with. You know what? I'll say Jacoby Spells. It
was bingo. Ding ding ding. Jacoby Spells, the true freshman. Man, let me finish reading the list. I'm up here, man.
We're getting excited.
Right. Sean Martin, number 3. Dante Steele was 4. Taj Austin 5. Hey, Taj Austin's played good the last 2 weeks, man.
Yeah,
he might be better suited to come off the bench.
Chip
Hershey McLaren is 6. Jared Bartlett 7th. Lee Koba 8. Wesley McCormick 9. Marcus Floyd 10. Jasir Cox 11, and Aubrey Burks 12. Even though I was one of the fire Neil Brown guys out of the Kansas game. I admit it. I did videos about it, all that. I didn't say fire him today, but I said if he doesn't turn the season around, he needs to go. That was basically my take in a nutshell. But you look at the guys who performed last night the best. C.J. Donaldson, true freshman, who recruited him? Neil Brown. Justin Johnson, who recruited him? Neil Brown. J.T. Daniels, transferred, Neil Brown, because he hired Graham Harrell, which got us J.T. Daniels. So you still got to give Neil Brown some credit for that, right?
Absolutely.
You got, Jacoby Spells, recruited by Neil Brown, I think I already mentioned. You got Lee Koba has been playing well, transferred in here because of Neil Brown. I mean, just look, Sean Martin, recruited by Neil Brown. Kid has stepped up and played amazing. And he's a West Virginia kid who Neil Brown flipped. He was going to go to North Carolina. Neil Brown flipped him to West Virginia. Wyatt Milam, a West Virginia kid, recruited by Neil Brown. Zach Frazier, recruited by Neil Brown. I mean, it goes on and on and on, man. And I just, there's a part of me that wants to step back and say, okay, if we fire Neil Brown, are we sacrificing this season for the future? Or I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Are we sacrificing the future because of essentially one bad game at this point? Let's face it, Kansas game. Because nobody wanted him fired after the Pitt game. So maybe we need to pump our brakes a little
Mark
bit.
Stoops wasn't successful until year 5 in Kentucky.
Right.
There are situations.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's just what got me was the fact that Lance Leipold has been able to turn Kansas around so fast. But maybe Lance Leipold is just one of those elite coaches. Right. Maybe he's at an elite level guy. There's not that many of those guys out there, and I just, I'm not saying Neil Brown needs to be elite by any stretch of imagination, and he could end up being elite. I don't know, but and then Neil Brown made a statement in a press conference the other day that also made me think about pumping my brakes on my fire Neil Brown stuff. That's this. He was talking about the way they've approached the offensive line. They knew going into 2019 or 2020 that they were extremely young at offensive line, and they made the decision, instead of going out into the transfer portal and getting some veterans, that they wanted to build their offensive line with young guys, young, talented guys, and build it for the future. So they knew there was going to be growing pains on the offensive line. And they probably knew it was going to cost them some games. At least you would assume that, right?
Right.
And you think Shane Lyons also has had that conversation. So I think Neil Brown's plan the whole time has been more of a long 5 to 10 year plan versus what Dana Holgorsen used to do, and let's try to win this year and then we'll worry about next year.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a wrong way to do it, because in today's age with the transfer portal, maybe Dana was ahead of his time. I don't know. Well, because that's what Kansas did. They went out. I mean, they basically built their whole team with transfer guys, or half of them.
Right.
But they're not. But it's Kansas. West Virginia's in a different stages of program than Kansas. So maybe we do need to give Neil Brown. Now, I'm not saying if he wins 4 games that he needs. I'm not going that crazy, but if he goes 7-5, 6-6, maybe we should keep him around another year. And I wasn't saying that 2 weeks ago. I was saying if he don't win 7 games or 8 games, he's out. I don't know that I feel that way today, but I'm fickle just like any other fan. I might change my mind next week if Texas blows us out. I might say fire him, get him out.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, man. I get emotional just like every other fan.
Well, this is not for the most part, we're not being objective. We're rooting for a certain team here.
We are.
So
I mean,
we have emotions.
Yeah. When I do my prediction videos and stuff like that, I try to be objective. There are certain videos I try to be objective in, and there are certain ones that, I'm a fan. I mean, and I wish I had wore this shirt to the game, and I got a West Virginia shirt on. I wish I'd have wore this to the game last night, but I didn't. Because that would have really, being in Virginia, that would have been an awesome shirt to have on. It probably would have got me in a fight. But anyway, I digress. Tony Maltimore says, Texas and WVU are the super chick hipster teams. They lost to Kansas before all these other folks realized it was cool. That's funny. Oh, man.
One way to look at it.
Yep. And John Kelly, man, thanks for hopping on here. Not sure. We'll lose 6 games right now. Have to see Oklahoma and OK State only shown dominance thus far, and yes, Kansas. But OK State, man, I'm not sold on them either. They've been beating cupcake teams. The one Power 5 team they played was Arizona State, and they're a dumpster fire right now. So I don't know that. I don't know, man. I know Oklahoma State's offense is going to be really good because they're putting up a lot of points. But so is West Virginia, and we've put them up against tougher competition so far. So
Mike Ossie just did an article. Shout out to Mike Ossie for this, but he just put up an article talking about the Kansas game, and we've seen this defense stack 3 good performances. The Pitt performance was still pretty good, and then these last 2, and he hit the articles about whether or not the Kansas game really was an aberration. And then Neil Brown went into detail last night. If you heard the press conference, he said, "Listen, they knew they had an FCS opponent before us. They had the entire summer before that. We think they spent the entire summer and the week of that FCS game preparing for us with that offense and played a completely different one for the FCS game." If that was the case, how many teams in football with the talent they have anyway? They're already talented. How many wouldn't have been caught off guard?
Right.
Because in my life, I've never seen the way our linebackers played, the run fits that they had. It wasn't something you could clean up in the middle of the game.
Right.
These guys ran a triple option when they were a spread offense up until then.
Right.
It was just the opposite. They're the opposite things of each other. So I think it could be an aberration. And then Kansas is also pretty good.
Yeah, Neil made a comment too, along with that same statement, I think, or same answer. He said that, excuse me, he said, I think everybody, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I think everybody overestimated or overstated the decline of our program. Something to that effect. That everybody may have basically blown it out of proportion.
Yeah, he did.
The program's not falling apart because we lose to Kansas. But I don't know. We'll see. He's still. And here's where we probably need to slow down a little bit. Guys, I don't think Virginia Tech's a very good football team. They might be the second worst team we play the entire season. Maybe. And no offense, Hokie for life. By the way, I got to read his comment. He says, "A Tech fan and WV fan got in a fight right beside me. That had better offense than Virginia Tech." Oh man. Yeah, some of these fans, man, get out of control on both sides too. And I'm not
fight.
People, if you can't go to a game without being disrespectful to the fans of the other team, you probably need to stay home. I mean, that's just talking a little friendly trash talk. But of course, when you get alcohol involved, friendly trash talk turns into somebody getting ticked off, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, what other things do you want to talk about that stood out to you last night, man?
Well, JT Daniels and his steady hand, his numbers haven't been eye-popping the last few weeks, but he has such a calming presence in the huddle, outside the huddle, when the play's breaking down. Really impressed with that and just how he's able to lead our team. That's really what we've been missing. Jarrett Doege was a quiet guy, man. And I'm a fan of his as far as his character and how he was off the field. But, man, JT's on another level with it. I mean, he's just intangibles are so good. He was really what we needed. Caden Prather, I was really impressed with. Everybody, the defense entirely played well. I was impressed with Lee Koba, though. I thought he really had some nice hits. He played well over the course of the game. Mm-hmm. It's a great day to wake up a Mountaineer. We've all got hope going into Austin. I have pretty good feelings about that game as of right now.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you do, because I don't. I predicted that as a loss.
They haven't shown us anything.
I'm actually more bullish on Texas than you are, to be honest. And I hate to say that because I can't stand them. I think they're elitists, but I don't want to get on that subject. But you look at, they lost to the number one team in the country by 1 point on a last-second field goal. That's pretty impressive. You got to admit. And they held Alabama, one of the best offenses in the country, to what, 20 points, something like that. UTSA is a pretty good football team. They beat them. Now they had to come back to do it. I get it, but still, one thing that one commentator made a comment I agreed with was, Texas of last year would not have been able to overcome and win that game. They did. They were able to come back, withstand some adversity, and pull out a victory. So I do think Texas is different, and I'm going to be honest. I think Texas can finally play defense now, and that's what scares me about it, because we've all known their offense is there. It's been there. They just haven't been able to play defense very well. And their culture, they've had culture issues. I think Sarkisian is fixing the culture problem. He's probably not all the way there yet, but now they got, and what people don't remember, they've got Gary Patterson behind the scenes, guys. The old TCU coach, I've heard Neil Brown say or Dana One, maybe both say he's a defensive genius. The way they said you will never see the same defense twice in a game with Gary Patterson, ever. The same formations and the same lineup, where guys are at on the field. You never see the same one twice. If he gets beat, he said, if we beat them, if Gary Patterson lines up in the defense and you beat it, you never see it again the rest of the game. I mean, that's how good he is. And his handprints, to me, are all over that Texas. Now, all over that Texas defense. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's making a difference there.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know. But anyway, maybe I hope I'm wrong, and I hope you're right about Texas, Paul. I hope Texas is.
I'm not bullish on.
Yeah, and some people aren't. I did my rankings, my power rankings. I had them at number 1. I've seen other people have them at like 5 and 6. So it's all over the map with Texas. No, Texas is still, nobody knows what they are yet.
We'll find out Saturday.
We will. And I do like, Tony makes a good point here. He says VT may not be a great team this year, but it's still a big rivalry game. So WVU's pulling through to stomp them is impressive. Yeah, and it was at their field, in their hostile environment, and the team had been down. Could have let the negativity and everything ruin the season, but they didn't. They stepped up. They played hard. They won. Played well and won. So that's a fair statement. But at the same time, they do need to fix. They did commit some. And we just lost Paul, but we did commit some penalties at inopportune times again, like especially early. I think one time we had it 4th and short in the red zone, and somebody committed a false start again. Obviously, the fumble, the drop pass in the end zone by O'Laughlin, I thought that would come back to bite us. The muff punt. Have you been able to hear me, Paul?
Yeah,
because I lost you for a minute. But yeah,
sorry,
I do think there's some stuff they still had some penalties in inopportune times. They didn't have that many penalties, but a couple of them came at a bad time. But that being said, like I said earlier, they were able to bounce back from that stuff, whereas in the past they've not been able to. So, and I just think overall, I'm just impressed with the overall team win. Both sides of the ball played well enough to win the game, and that's what we've been missing.
Yep, completely agree. And really, just anytime you hold a team to a low scoring margin like we did, 10 points I'll take that. We've stacked 2 really good defensive performances together. And whether they were good teams or not, the confidence of our group is important.
Yes.
And also it's buying us time to teach behind the scenes for these guys to learn the scheme just a little bit more. And Lee Koba and Lance Dixon and all the guys in the secondary are just a little bit better this week. And it can only get better. It shouldn't be any regression at all. So, the closer we can get to bending and not breaking and letting our offense do what it does, the closer we are to eight wins than we are to 5.
Right. You're right. We were talking about JT Daniels earlier, and Tony makes a statement here. He says, you guys probably don't follow Oregon State, but they are jealously imagining fan fiction about if their team had been able to steal JT Daniels away from you guys. He's a great QB. Yeah, he Oregon State was in his final 3 schools, us, Oregon State, and Missouri.
Yeah.
And I'm just ecstatic that we were able to win out, and it was all because of Graham Harrell. I mean, I don't want to say all, but that was what got us. That's what got him to the table, was having Graham Harrell.
Yeah.
And he admitted that.
After the first 2 weeks, I actually had that thought. Like, I wonder if he wonders if she should have went to Oregon State.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I
Oh, no,
really
I did
think-
too. I thought the same thing, but I don't think he, and then I don't think he has any regrets. And then WVU Lair with Kenny says he has ice in his veins. Great comment, Kenny, because last night during the game, the Tech fans that were behind me, there was a group of them, and they were talking. They were complaining about Grant Wells, and they were like, I heard him say something to the effect of, a football team is as good as their quarterback, and our quarterback is not good, and their quarterback is a stone cold killer. That's the words they described. And I thought that's a pretty good description of JT Daniels right there.
Yeah.
Stone cold killer. He's. I mean, when you hear his press conferences, I mean, he doesn't get rattled about anything. I mean, I've never seen the guy rattled. But it's almost like the more stressful the situation, the better he likes it. Honestly. And what else do you want in your quarterback? You know, and he doesn't care if you're running the ball. He doesn't care if you're throwing it 50 times. He's going to do whatever he has to do to win the game.
Yeah.
Hokie for Life says he might have a time machine. I want to live in 1999.
I saw Mike Vick came back for the game this week and gave a speech to the Virginia Tech
Yeah,
players.
he did. I think that's a good thing to bring all these old players back.
Yeah. Talking about a recruiting tool. There's one.
Yeah, really. Hokie for Life says thanks for attending my post game thoughts. Yeah, he's been a good sport.
I see that Bengals logo you got there too, man. You're really rough this year, aren't you?
Yeah, really. Poor guy. I don't like to wish for the future, but can you imagine Marky old Donaldson, Prather, and this O-line in 2 years?
Yeah.
Well, some of the O-line will be gone, but yes.
Yeah. Or Goose even. You know, I really do think it's going to be Nico, but I'm almost as encouraged by Goose Crowder as I am by Nico.
Me too.
I mean, they're both mobile. They can both sling it. I hate to leave Garrett Green out, but he's just not the future in my opinion.
I don't either. Now I know other podcasters and other people are really high on Garrett Green, and I'm not saying he's bad.
He's just not.
And we could probably win games with him, but we would have to have a whole different. We'd have to run a different type of offense.
If Rich Rod was here, he'd be great.
Yeah, or go back to remember how Dana used Skylar Howard.
Oh yeah.
You know, something like that, where he only made him throw certain throws.
He threw such a good deep ball.
He did.
And he knew how to be
but he struggled on some of the underneath stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He's actually almost a carbon copy of Garrett Green.
Yeah, but he won. The guy was a winner.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah,
I mean, he was the last quarterback. Yeah, last one we've had to win 10 games. So
what year was that?
15 or 16. I don't remember the exact year.
Making a comparison the other day. The last time we've had a guy in the middle as good as Jefferson was who? Chris Neald?
Yeah.
2010 squad that won 10 games.
Yep.
That was all a little bit.
Yeah, that's all right. We can get JT Daniels. He has a COVID year. Yeah, he does have one more year left. I don't expect him to use it, but
I don't think he wants to.
If he keeps playing the way he's playing, he'll probably end up being a draft, pretty decently high draft pick, especially if we can win a lot of games. Coos, don't forget to mention we set a record for the largest point victory in all-time history in Blacksburg. I didn't know that. The old record was the 98 team, 22-10 WVU. Interesting. John, the largest point victory by West Virginia or largest point victory by anybody? I want to know the can you be more specific? And here come the bots. Jiminy Christmas. Sorry, guys. Trying to get these bots out of here. I had strengthened my security to try to keep these boogers out. Now it won't let me. All right. Now it says, Nathan says Green does need some packages during games. I agree, but, man, when you got somebody like JT Daniels and he's rolling, do you really want to take him out?
Right.
I don't. Now, last year with Daggy, yeah, use him because Daggy's not JT Daniels. But yeah, let me think back. What do you think the key? We'll wrap this up in a minute, but I want to get from you. What do you think the key moments were?
Okay.
For the game last night.
Key moments for me were a guy that should shouted out, Mike Lockhart, the dancing bear, man. The tip ball, which prevented a conversion. Third quarter, I believe it was, and obviously probably the biggest play of the game, the Sam James touchdown, the end of the second half or the second quarter. Apologize. I've been up all night. I haven't been to bed yet. So
Are you serious?
Like, yeah, I haven't been to bed yet. Wow. I've been juiced all night doing research. And then also the Jacoby Spells' interception. I think that's a pretty good sandwich right there.
Good one. I want to add, those are great ones. I didn't even think about the tip ball, but I think that's bigger than what we realized. I think the fourth and one stop. Well, actually, we stopped in 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. If I'm not mistaken, in the second quarter was huge in my opinion. When our defense stopped them on 4th and 1, that was massive because they were in our territory, and there was a huge momentum swing. You could actually feel it in the building almost. The momentum swinging back in our direction. It got the defense juiced up and fired up. I'm sure it got the offense juiced up and fired up. And then I think the other big one was, and by the way, shout out to Casey Legg, 4 for 4 on field goals last night. Kent would be crazy. And number 47, is that Del Negro, by the way? Is that the Del Negro guy that we got? He blocked the punt. I don't know if anybody realizes that. I think he got a hand on that punt.
Wow.
I think he got a hand on that punt. I'm pretty sure he did.
He did on
the got another one later in the game. He was really close to getting another one. But
shout out to Anthony Del Negro.
So Del Negro, that was huge.
Parker Grothaus as well.
Yes,
put a bunch of them in the end zone.
He did. Yeah, our specialist played well last night. But
I'm sure you'll be happy about that.
Yeah, the stop on 4th and 1 was huge. I'm trying to think of the other play that I was obviously the touchdown by Sam James that you mentioned. That was an absolute killer. I mean that might be. Well, Neil Brown even said it. I mean, to him, that was the biggest moment in the game because they were able to get momentum back, and Tech was getting the ball back at the half, so they were able to go up by 2 scores. Or no, we were losing at that point, weren't we?
Yes.
So we were able to take the lead. Yeah, that's right, or something like that. I'm trying to remember what the score was.
3, I thought, right there.
Yeah, we were down 13-10, maybe. Or
I can look it up.
I can't remember. It's all a blur, man. But anyway, but yeah, I think the catch by James and that 4th and 1 stop to me were 2 of the key moments that really flipped the game around for us. But just real quick, Virginia Tech, I think they'll be okay with Brent Pry. I mean, it's obviously too early to tell, but I think their previous staff just put them in a hole with recruiting and weren't recruiting very well. I think he's going to recruit better and hopefully get more players out of the state of Virginia, which they've been missing out on.
They put us ahead 13-7.
Okay. I was thinking we were down, but I couldn't remember what the score was.
It was right after Wells that threw that touchdown pass.
Yep. We were down 7-6 then, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure there was one more moment, and I cannot think of it. Oh, late in the game, he found Reese Smith wide open in the middle of the field on a long pass play.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a big play too, because that really kind of put us in scoring position again, and allowed us to bust the game open, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that.
But what did you think? And I noticed this a little bit, but I heard the Chris Anderson and Mike Azaza talking about this on their recap last night. West Virginia was playing some really odd defenses last night, man. Did you pick up on that while you were watching the game?
Yeah. They actually had a 5-1-5 at one point in time, which is really unusual defense. I don't know if they were just trying to get it on tape, just to get it on tape, give somebody something else to prepare for. It was an odd front for sure.
And I looked out there one time last night, and he had Jared Bartlett playing Mike.
I did too.
Mike position.
Yeah, because of his pass coverage skills.
Yeah, and I'm so, dude. When they said they were going to fix it and change personnel, dude, they
went to work.
They've went from one ditch to the other. That's my my pastor likes to say. I mean, they went from. I mean, they're putting guys. I mean, they got Lance Dixon playing spear now. Bandit now, bandit safety now. They've got who was a linebacker before, right? They had Lee Coble one time playing defensive edge rusher during that 5-on-5 when they were in that 5-on-5. They had Jared Bartlett and Linnell Carr playing Mike at times. I mean,
I think when you're up in a game like that, you know, you can experiment with stuff. And one thing I know about Jordan Leslie is let's not get it twisted, man. He had one bad outing his entire career with us, and everybody wanted to fire him. I mean, the Baylor game was pretty bad, but you know,
yeah,
it's been few and far between. We've had 3 really solid years of defense.
Oh, you talking about Jordan Leslie? Yes.
Yeah.
That was insane for people to want him fired. There is no way, shape, or form you could put any of that on him after one game. I mean, especially after you saw what they did to Houston the following week, who has a veteran, experienced defense. They did that to an experienced defense.
They had the 6th-ranked defense in the country the year before and returned several of those starters.
Yeah, and they did it to them too. So that just goes to me that I'll be honest with you, Kansas beating Houston made me feel a whole lot better about us losing to Kansas. I mean, I still wasn't happy about it, obviously, but I still think it's a game, and it still irks me because we should have won the game. I still feel we were the better football team overall.
I do too.
But they just had a scheme that was perfect for us, man, or it's perfect to use against us, you know. John says that was a WVU record for playing them in Blacksburg. WVU record. Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, they play Duke tomorrow.
Yeah,
3-0.
That might actually be a good game.
2 3-0 squads.
Yeah, John Kelly says muffing punts. Yeah, muffing punts and false starts need to fix. That's true. Nicholas Caldwell says we need to find a new punt return kid. Yeah, we talked about it earlier in the show. I'd like to see Preston Fox or somebody like that get a shot.
Quick note on the false start penalty. JT Daniels said that was his and Zach Frazier's fault and not James Committer's fault in the post-game press conference. Even though James Committer went off sides, JT said it was he and Zach's fault.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was something about the way they did something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was either the cadence or something, or he said he didn't get up to the line quickly enough or something along those lines, but he said it was really on them and not James Committer.
There's your leader, guys. There's your leader right there.
Yep.
That's why guys are playing so hard for him. But Owen Sapelnik was talking about the I was there as well, Coos. Could you believe the traffic jam underneath the stadium? Yeah, I talked about that earlier when the show first started, man. They got to fix that. They need to put money into that stadium to fix their concourses, to widen just like WVU did a few years ago. Widen the concourses out. They need to add more concessions areas because it is a cluster under there, man. You can't even hardly walk through there. It's a mess. And that stadium holds more than ours does. It has a 65 or 66,000 capacity, man. Other than that, like I said earlier, inside the bowl, inside the arena area, everything's other than the narrow walkways. You know, instead of just having music at timeouts, they have a guy that talks to people and does these little games and contests and stuff with the fans, and that's pretty entertaining. It gives you something to watch and do while they're in timeout. Versus West Virginia just plays videos basically. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of that stuff I liked, but they definitely need to do something about the concourse areas and everything else. Anything else that you want to talk about as far as on the field?
No, I'm ready to move on to Texas week. Start prepping for that.
And just to give everybody a heads up, I actually was messaging this morning there's a Texas podcast right there who's pretty popular, who I'm hoping to get on my show for my Texas preview. So everybody be on the lookout for that. I know people don't like Texas, and last time I was on a show with a guy from Texas, it was over on Mark's channel. People started dropping off like flies. Guys, this is a Texas preview show, okay? So we kind of need to talk about Texas.
Yeah, so, and in a couple of weeks, I'll be interviewing Paul Catalina from Sick 365 for the Baylor week. I know that's not relevant right now, but just,
No.
look out for that in my channel.
Absolutely.
Paul Talks Football. If you can run over there and just check me out, maybe hit the subscribe button. It's a new channel, but I'd really like to try to get it off the ground. We Mountaineer fans, we're going to try to stick together, and I'll have good content for you guys.
Yeah, everybody. That's perfect, Paul. I was gonna give you another opportunity to plug, man. Hokie for Life says, "I hope y'all beat Texas." Much respect to you, Hokie for Life. You're one of the nice Hokie fans that I met last night. One or two weren't so nice, but 99% of them were. All right, real quick, everybody, check out Paul's channel. Paul Talks Football, or Mountaineer Paul Talks Football, right? Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. I'm going to put a link to his channel in the description when this video is over. So everybody go check it out. Please check out his interview with CJ Donaldson's dad. It's
his coach.
I'm his dad, guys. Hey, dude, I feel like I haven't slept either. His interview with CJ Donaldson's high school coach. It is a great interview. He really talks about, well, I don't want to spoil it, but he really gives you, and Trey Lathan, I can't forget about him. CJ Donaldson's getting all the attention right now, but yeah, Trey Lathan was on the same high school team, and it's a cool story. They tell the story in the interview about how that all happened and how both guys ended up at WVU and all that. So go check that interview out. I think you'll enjoy it, and really you'll earn a lot of respect for Mr. Sims, who coached them at Gulliver Prep High School down around the Miami area. So, by the way, before I go, shout out to Joe Mazzulla, West Virginia basketball legend, who just got the interim head coaching job with the Boston Celtics. Their coach apparently got suspended. Apparently, it's illegal in Boston or against the rules to date a fellow staff member or something. I don't know. Anyway, their head coach got suspended. They promoted Joe Mazzulla as interim coach, so I hope he kills it. I may become a Boston Celtics fan. And from a guy who used to be a Lakers fan, that's not easy to say.
Yeah, I'm really proud of him. He's risen up the coaching ranks as fast as anybody I can remember. I mean, it was only 2010 that he was playing for us. So, but I mean, he's worked hard at it, and we've got a couple really Darius Nichols being another guy. I mean, we've got some really good coaches in the ranks right now that the future looks pretty bright after Bob leaves. Although I don't know if Joe wants to stay in the NBA or not.
Yeah,
Be nice.
He will.
Yeah,
I'd say he will. I mean, once you start making that NBA money and NBA, you don't have to recruit,
Yeah.
The GM does all that. I mean, I'm sure you're not that you're not part of the discussion, but the GM does most of that work for you. You can kind of concentrate on. Of course, it's different. You're also managing bigger egos, so I'm sure it's got its own challenges. But my guess is he'll want to stay in the NBA, and I've actually heard rumors that that's what he wants to do. I forget who was John Flowers or somebody I heard talking about that on their podcast one time, maybe.
Well, they're such a good team that it's almost going to be impossible for him not to succeed there.
Yeah, Brad Stevens is running that. He's the new GM now. He used to be their coach.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who their president is, but man, Danny Ainge, that's right. That is still a very well run. That is a very well run organization. It has been for many years. So like I said, I may actually start. I don't really have a pro team anymore because I quit liking the Lakers when Shaq left and when they fired Jerry West.
It's crazy. Me too.
I quit cheering for him, and I was never, even though I rest in peace and I respect the guy, I was never a big Kobe fan when he played. I felt like I always blamed him for what happened with him and Shaq, to be honest. But that's water under the bridge. But just that was the reasons I quit cheering for the Lakers back in the day. But so I don't now. I basically just root for Javon Carter, and now I root for the Celtics. That's really the only teams I care about in the NBA. To be honest with you.
Yeah, it's like I'm a big Seahawks fan right now too.
Seahawks, absolutely. And Gino had a rough game here this past weekend, man.
I know. Is it bad that I've been rooting for the kid to go down in Dallas to see if Will can get in that?
Yeah, I'd rather him win. What's that?
A lot of people say that he beat him out in camp.
That Will beat him out?
Oh yeah.
Well, they raved about Will all camp, and then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. But anyway, way above my pay grade, man.
Yeah, we can go down this rabbit hole for hours probably.
Yep. Well, listen, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I know this was a last minute, which most of mine are, because I never know when I'm going to do them. But I've been dying to talk about this with Mountaineer Nation, and wanted to bring Paul on to do that. I had a couple other guys that wanted to join me, but it didn't work out with their schedules today. But that being said, Paul was gracious enough to come on. Paul, I appreciate you, man. I will leave the link to your channel in the description of the video. Everybody check it out. And that being said, exit Sandman, Q Country Roads.
Roads.